Hey there, Roger here. Thanks for tuning in. Wow, why make any kind of effort to address well-being? I'm guessing you've seen the title, Welcome to Wellbeing, and you're kind of curious. The answer is it's fundamental to everything that we do. Our physical and mental well-being establishes a baseline, a platform from which we can enjoy our working day and our social time as well. And it doesn't matter so much if we're 9 to 5ing it, if we're trying to make a side hustle work, or we're up to our necks as unpaid carers. What matters is that our mental and physical health and energies are as focused as they can be. And I found this to be a true fact, whether we're talking about line management, something I've done quite a lot, personal development coaching, I've been active in that space as well, or leading projects. What matters is that people who turn up and participate are feeling 100% or as close to as they can get. Because once they're in that frame of mind, anything becomes possible. So, what we're going to talk about in this stream, well, 5 things really. Rest and sleep, starting the day on the right footing, connecting and communicating with people around us, customers, clients, family, friends, taking a pause midway through the day, and then in our downtime in the evening, doing what we can to restore the balance, reflect on what went well and what didn't work quite so well, and then get our heads down for a good night's sleep. So stay tuned to the end of that cycle, and it is a cycle from waking to sleeping and back again, because it will undoubtedly cause little light bulbs to go off in your mind and prompt you to think, right, okay, there's something that's not quite working for me, and there's an area into which I can do some development. So without further ado, let's talk about the benefits of a good night's sleep. Now, I think we're meant to get 8 to 10 hours on average, and that gives us enough time to rest and recuperate, for our body to come down from whatever high we experienced during the day, and also to do some dreaming, to get into that deep cycle of sleep where whatever challenges or problems might have cropped up for us, well, we are able to devote some sleep time to solving them or shifting them, letting them get out of the way. So there are a few steps that we can do to help ourselves to a good night's sleep, since that's the foundation for anything we're going to accomplish when we wake up. We can start to quieten things down as the evening progresses. We can switch off any digital equipment that we've got as we get near our bedtime. We can make sure that we've arranged the clothes and the equipment that we need for the following day, where it's easy to get a hold of, and make sure that any questions that there might be from anybody else in the household, our offspring, our partner, those are resolved, so that pretty much once our head hits the pillow, we're in a frame of mind where we can just relax and progressively fall into a deeper and deeper sleep. So if there's a point to remember, it's this, that we can do a lot of organization beforehand through the evening, so that we naturally wind down and get ourselves to the point where sleep is inevitable once our head hits the pillow. So that's sleep. Let's talk about the other end of those 8 to 10 hours. What happens when we wake up? I don't know about you, but sometimes it is difficult when the alarm goes to resist the temptation to press 5 minutes or 10 minutes and have a bit of a snooze. But on those occasions where we have had the sleep that we need, that we are feeling energetic and rested and optimistic too, there's a natural flow that starts to work in our favor if we've done the preparation necessary to make the day work for us. So I mentioned a few minutes ago the practical steps. Make sure the bathroom is clean, there's towels, there's toiletries, etc. Make sure the clothes that we're going to wear are freshly ironed and hanging up, ready to go. And make sure that everybody else under the roof is equally set up for their day. So, in other words, the flow works in our favor where everything is in its place and it's ready to roll. And if you've ever experienced a chaotic morning where you can't find socks that match, you haven't got a clean top or a shirt or what have you, there's a queue for the bathroom and there's no towels or whatever, you know exactly what frame of mind that puts you in. And it's not a good one. So, if there's something to remember around starting the day, it's definitely the case that the more preparation goes beforehand, the easier the day begins. And if you've ever run into somebody who's having a bad day, who's struggling, who's cranky, who's obviously not had a good night's sleep, you know what a pain in the neck that can be. So don't be that person. Be the one who's organized, got the equipment, got the bag packed, and it's fairly straightforward to go through the door out into the world. Interestingly enough, I can remember the difference that not just the internal world, but the external world made to one of the people I was coaching who worked in a community setting. So she would really enjoy her commute to work. She would get to work, see some familiar faces, people she and her organization had helped before. It gave her a bit of a buzz. So she was building on the fact that she had the sleep she needed, she was in the right frame of mind, and she was going to make an impact in the world. And when her organization changed, because the money ran out and things got really tough and challenging, she recounted to me that far from being colorful and vivid and happy as a journey, her journey became like a black and white movie from the Depression years. It was trudgery, it was really hard going, she didn't enjoy it, and the atmosphere that she went to work in became really almost toxic. So hopefully it's evident that whatever we do internally to set ourselves up for a good day can be affected by our external circumstances. Which kind of leads me to the next point I wanted to make, really, which is about the effect that we have on others and others have on us. If we've slept, if we've had a good breakfast, if we're in the right frame of mind, we're pretty much fireproof when it comes to dealing with other people and their stuff. And mostly other people, neighbors, commuters, colleagues, mostly other people are okay to get along with. But just sometimes people can be having a bad day, they can be cranky, they can be, I don't know, just in the wrong mood for it. And that can impact us potentially. But again, the advantage of our state of well-being being strong and positive is that we can push back. We know what our boundaries are. We know what sort of stuff we'll accept from somebody else. Just write it off and say, they're having a bad day, it doesn't affect me. Or if they're being particularly toxic, particularly hard work, there's nothing wrong with being assertive and clear about what is not acceptable from their behavior and let them know that your boundaries are being crossed and you need them to back down. Again, that is so much more possible when we're in the right frame of mind, when we've rehearsed perhaps where our boundaries are and how we'll handle somebody who's being obnoxious and unhelpful. This might sound like quite a lot of work to do, and I'm not suggesting we all need to do it all at once. But as we go through this presentation, hopefully, as I say, the little light bulb will go off and it'll be evident that there's one part or another that might be a useful starting point to do some personal work on personal development. As I say, it'll make more sense when we complete the cycle. But so far we've covered sleep, we've covered the start of the day, we've covered to some extent how our activity, how we are in the world, affects other people, and the boundary issue where other people can potentially affect us. If there's one point to take away and one point to remember almost, it would be when we are saying hello, when we're greeting people, when we're interested in other people, whether these are colleagues or customers or service users, when we engage with other people, we're building a stronger and more effective community, one that we can benefit by the way that we come across, but also one from which we can benefit, because there might be a piece of knowledge or a piece of insight from somebody else that we're coming into contact with that we can tap into and make really good use of. But that only works when we are in that right frame of mind, when we're able to do our best, show up well, and be considerate and conscientious in what we do and how we do it. And that's true whether we're working for a 9 to 5, whether we're in a startup and we're trying to establish those important networks and relationships that will bring people into our world, get them interested in what we're trying to do, and shift the needle from knowing what we're about, liking what it represents, and trusting us so that we actually can do business. So whether that, as I say, is something we're doing as a startup, as an entrepreneurial activity where we're doing a 9 to 5, or working as an unpaid carer, where it's so important that we have effective working relationships with medical professionals or legal advisors or financial folks, as well as, of course, keeping that focus, that central attention on the person to whom we're offering our services as an unpaid carer, our loved one or our neighbor, a friend. Well-being is the thread that runs through all of those activities, whether they're commercial, 9 to 5, or unpaid. And that's why this theme and these conversations are really important. So let me just bring you into those last 2 areas. I've made it sound perhaps like it's all go all the time, whatever we're doing, unpaid or paid, full-time, part-time. But actually, we have to be kind to ourselves. That's so very important. We have to take a break, perhaps the middle of the day or morning, afternoon, or whatever, where we've got 30 minutes, 40 minutes just for ourselves. I know the temptation, especially in a commercial sense, is to be on the go all the time, focusing on deadlines and quality and timings and relationships and customers. But actually, the prime relationship that any of us get the most from is the relationship we have with ourselves. I can remember coaching someone who was working in a startup. They'd been told that actually they are skillful, they're a professional, but right now what they need to be doing for the startup's benefit was working as a general office manager. So there was a mismatch, in other words, between their skills and what they were doing. And this came to a head at about 6 o'clock on a Friday evening when their other half rang them, and they were waiting at the station for the lift that my coaching client had promised to provide, which had completely slipped his mind. And of course, at 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, there's no way you're going to be able to easily beat the traffic to get to the station to pick up the other half. So things were not good when we had our coaching conversation. I think what came to the fore for that coaching client was their anger, for one, and disappointment, too. Anger that they'd been misled by the boss, who'd sort of said, don't worry, stick with it. It's only for a couple of months, or next quarter things will change. 9 months into the process, it was obviously not going to change. They were not going to get this promised opportunity to use their natural skills. And so, understandably, they were pretty fed up. But also, yeah, so there's the anger, but the disappointment as well. They'd spent that, labored hard over that number of months, being misled, and had effectively wasted time. And that is something that does come across in coaching conversations, left, right, and center. People who realize that their path forward, their next logical step, is different to what they'd expected or what they'd been told. There's bound to be a bit of anger, a bit of regret, a bit of, well, a sense of time wasted. But realistically, as long as they're in a robust and resilient frame of mind, as long as they have that sense of, okay, here's where I'm going, I'm not going down that route, and yeah, there's a little nugget almost of time wasted. But now I can see what the future is, and I'm ready to do the work. Well, anything is possible, I suppose. So getting back to the theme of taking a break, it's important to remember that managing our time matters. Doesn't matter if we're caring for someone, if we're side hustling, if we're working in somebody else's 9 to 5. We still have our needs. And beyond that basic set of needs about sleep and food and shelter, there's something around self-esteem. So taking a break, walking around in the sunshine, enjoying some green spaces, perhaps going to the gym or listening to a podcast or whatever it is, something that's just for us, that's a bit of a reward for getting through the morning and helps set us up for the afternoon and the rest of the day. That makes sense, I think. So, yeah, if we have one thing to take away, it would be that. Remember that managing our time is super important, and that there are things that we can do, healthy things that we can do, to just restore a little bit of balance if we feel that we're flagging a little bit come the early part of the afternoon. So, let's look at the final piece in that cycle, which is around rest and reflection at the end of the day. Let's say that the day has gone well, that we've got back indoors, we've checked in with our children, our spouse, our partner, so we're in a good place. It's okay to set aside 10 or 15 minutes in the course of the evening just for ourselves. Another coaching client of mine has made the point of doing just that. I mean, if you're a parent, if you've got a partner, if you've got a busy life, volunteering or being part of the neighborhood, obviously there's so many calls on your time. It's not true. But nonetheless, making time for yourself is super important, because it allows you to kind of reset after being pushed and pulled and taken in different directions during the day. And that's notwithstanding having had a good night's sleep, having eaten nutritious, well-balanced food through the day, having taken a break and hopefully got outside and breathed fresh air. There's still little bits of impact. All the conversations you had, all the queries you resolved, all the customers you met and sorted out, all of that, it is bound to have an impact. And so taking those 10 or 15 minutes at some point in the evening as part of the wind down process, very important. It's important, I guess, for a couple of reasons. First, it's the opportunity to look at what went well. Mostly, fingers crossed, mostly the day will have gone smoothly. One thing will have followed another. There won't have been too many surprises, and certainly nothing outside our ability to cope, to manage, to perform well. There might, of course, have been something that was novel, something that was a bit of a head scratch, something that really didn't go well, and there's some learning from it. There's nothing wrong in that 10 or 15 minute span, just recognizing, okay, that's a learning point. That's something I need to do some work on. That makes a total piece of sense to me. And as I was saying, the coaching client that I worked with previously, that was something that he built into his life, separate to his family, separate to his religious practice, separate to almost anything else, like going to the gym or whatever. It was a bit of the evening. It was just his, in a quiet place that was comfortable, where he could write down and reflect on the things that worked, the things he learned, the things he found challenging. And it needn't be written down. It could be something kept electronically on the phone as a voice note or something. But the important part is to make sure that it is recorded, so that when you come to look back at what kind of a week was it or month was it, it's possible to chart those particularly important learning points, or the points that were challenging, and suggest that it might be worth doing a little bit of developmental work just to make sure that in future things go as smoothly as they possibly can. So I describe the cycle as one that starts with a good night's sleep and ends with the preparation for that sleep. And we've just gone through those different elements that go to make well-being a reality, and hopefully form the basis of a really good and productive day. So, good night's sleep, remembering that's something that can be organized and made to happen. An organized and effective start to the day, so that the flow is established from when the alarm goes off and feet hit the floor. There's another bit of remembrance around how our behavior affects others. We can just simply say hello to people, and that can brighten someone's day. And if someone else is coming towards us with some negativity or some toxicity, we've got boundaries. We know what our standards are, and if necessary, we can have an open and honest conversation about the other person's behavior being unhelpful. And they can be a customer, they can be a client, they can be a senior colleague. But at the end of the day, good behavior rewarded, challenging behavior called out. They need to be accountable, just like we are, for how we conduct ourselves. We also talked about taking a break and the importance of spending 30 minutes just on ourselves in the middle of the day. And it needn't be very flashy or very energetic. It could just simply be some fresh air, sitting in the park or walking along a towpath by the canal or whatever it is, just to give ourselves a bit of a pat on the back, a bit of a reward for having done really well. And that's only part way through the day. There's obviously some more reward to come during the evening. And of course, learning what went well and identifying what was less comfortable, that's a part of our evening ritual too. Making time just for ourselves to see, well, how are we doing after 8 hours or 10 hours, whatever it is, being part of the world for other people, for our service users, our clients and customers or colleagues. And the fortunate thing about making that regular 10 to 15 minute dedication to ourselves is it's like a muscle, really. Once it becomes that regular part of our day, we don't have to think about flexing it too much. It's just a natural feeling of, I need to reflect. I need some me time. I'm going to be better tomorrow as a consequence of spending that time today. And I guess that's one of the takeaways in that whole cycle, that if we are conscious and mindful about how we are in the world, what we bring to the people around us, both our family and customers and clients, etc., we're in a much stronger position to know what the next step is for us, what we need to be doing, what floats our boat. I think when people are unclear about how they're doing, basically, things can get a little bit muddied, or potentially can get overwhelming when the resources are scarce, when the boss is demanding, when the customers are unhappy. But the more that we are mindful about our own state, and the greater our sense of well-being, the stronger position we occupy when it comes to moving forward, being flexible, establishing our boundaries, pushing back where there's some unreasonable pressure in front of us, and perhaps most importantly, knowing what happens next. After all, the coaching clients that come to me, they know in their heart that there's something that they need to do some work around. And part of our initial contracting, beyond confidentiality, beyond the focus being on them and they identify what it is that's amiss and what topics they want to raise, the focus is very much on them identifying their own solutions, because they know what the gap is between where they are, how they feel, and what they want to be doing now. So that our journey is about supporting them, breaking down that big step that is, well, there's a huge gap between where they are and where they want to be. And so the process to demystify it is, right, okay, so you want to be, let's use some of the examples I gave you earlier. The guy who was working in the startup, not using his skills, angry, frustrated, and unhappy at home because of it. He wanted to be using his skills in an application that made him happy and left him enough space and time to spend with his family, to walk down the towpath, watch the kids run around, have a nice lunch by the side of the canal, whatever it is. Really simple. But again, it's based on a sense of well-being and purpose, which he wasn't able to focus on because of the external pressures and, well, perhaps the boundaries that were a little bit softer than they needed to be. So again, it's as simple as finding out where you want to be, identifying where you are, experiencing whatever the feelings are that are associated with that gap. Could be anger, could be frustration, could be sadness. And then bit by bit, working out, well, what's the first simple, powerful step that can be taken straight away to shorten that gap? You might have found through that cycle that I've just described a light bulb moment for yourself, something that you can do straight away as an action that moves the needle just a little bit in your favor. And it's not as if actions that we take are one-offs or standalones. They become part and parcel of how we are in the world. That muscle memory is built up so that we are organized before we go to bed, so that we are active and nourished when we start the day, so that we treat others as we want to be treated ourselves, so that we definitely take a pause midway through the day to replenish our batteries, and that we end our evening with reflection, something that's just for us, and something that is, in its own way, nourishing, centering, even mindful, so that we know exactly what's going on within our body, that we can, if we wanted to, almost meditate and start relaxing all the pressures out of our body, so that by the time our head hits the pillow, we are almost guaranteed to be in a relaxed state where we can breathe deeply, take things a little bit easy, and drift off and enjoy a good night's sleep. So that's quite a bit of information for you to think about. There are undoubtedly many more areas to explore. And if you do pursue coaching, you are definitely going to be able to form a rapport with your coach, which will help you go a little bit deeper, expand your horizons for sure, and find out exactly what's going on for you, what's not quite working as well as it should, and how you can approach narrowing the gap so that you end up in the place that you want to occupy, doing the things that you want to do, which is good news for everybody around you. Your kids, your partner, your friends, they all want you to be happy, healthy, and definitely focused on the future. And all of that is possible once well-being is the core from which you operate and provides that solid foundation for anything you do during the day or after work as well. So, as I say, make a point of thinking about the light bulb moment that came to you whilst you were listening. Make sure that you've written it down somewhere and you start to break it down. What do you want? Where are you now? And what's the most powerful, simple step that you can take just to begin to build that momentum? And once that momentum's working in your favor, rinse and repeat. Just keep using those actions. Develop other ones that bolt onto it, but keep doing the thing that really moves you forward, puts a smile on your face, and leaves you in a much better frame of mind to work with the clients, the customers, your colleagues, or the person that you're caring for. Because all of those people need you to be on top of your game and to feel really good in order to get the best out of you and for you to enjoy the day however you spend it. Thanks for paying. Thanks for pressing play. And good luck however you choose to take your next action. Cheers.